Morning to you watching. My name is Masika Tim and welcome to Smart Men's Business here in Smart 24 TV, where we drive your business. Well, of course, today is Thursday, the 18th of January 2024. And of course, we are still in the week of the non-alignment movement. And of course, yesterday was day 3. And of course, as we arrival of the different heads of state coming in, and of course today it's expected the president is going to be addressing these heads of state. And of course, yesterday there was a committee that was in charge of ministers of the different governments and the different governments of the different delegates that came into Uganda for the non-alignment movement. And of course, it was our very own General Jeje Odong was selected to be the chair. And of course, key issues were highlighted there. And of course, with the opening remarks of the Vice President, who talked about foreign investment and of course emphasizing, how Uganda is going to be having a project with the DRC and Tanzania to improve the border infrastructure, which is going to be facilitating trade and financial services across the region. Of course, those are the key factors that she highlighted in her speech. And of course, we expect that through these talks, we're going to have a solution to it. And of course, another speaker was the UNDP representative, and of course also she actually emphasized empowering SMEs, which actually SMEs, when you look at Africa, they are dominant. SMEs are really dominant, so there is need to improve the productivity of these SMEs. She talked about empowering SMEs to actively engage in regional trade, which is essential for unlocking Africa's growth potential. And of course, she also highlighted the African Continental Free Trade Area agreement, which is pivotal for the intra-African trade. I mean, this talk has been about, for the past 2 days, I think what I've learned, I've been talking about intra-African trade, how we can cooperate as Africa as a whole. And of course, starting off with the SMEs, which contribute, which are a bigger number, the small, medium enterprises, which are a big number. They're small, but people actually have them in big numbers. And of course, other speakers came into shape, and of course, but this was the emphatic points that we could actually pick out from yesterday's meeting.
Absolutely right. And definitely even coming to the East African Trade Summit, we see that over 100 companies.
Yesterday as well.
Yesterday, over 100 companies have actually expressed interest to invest in Uganda. And of course, seeing that the president was quite very clear in order to link the bridge, to link the gaps, to bridge the gaps rather that are missing out. And that is what is happening, the tensions in the East African region. But definitely, we can anticipate the best of that that is coming out of the NAM summit. But of course, most especially, we are not only looking at this period, we can really understand the activities that are running to a very faster speed. But the bigger picture here is what lies next of this country away from just the non-alignment movement. Yes.
Well, talking about the vice president actually yesterday, because she was the key speaker on the Ugandan part, and she was talking about foreign investment, and of course expectations are really high when it comes to foreign investment this very year, due to the non-alignment movement that we have. And due to the different losses that we've had, with the Auditor General's report, there is need to actually compensate for the losses that we've had. So, she talked about the resources that we have. She talked about how we're endowed the different regions with minerals. So, a point where investors should look into.
Yes. All right. Now, of course, still following that, quite a few aspects that happened yesterday in the discussions. Of course, taking a look at the global context, where we see some of the member states saying that They were really amazed by the warm hospitality within the country, and that really poses quite a lot when it comes to the hospitality industry. And at the same time, quite a number of hotels, like you've been observing, have been booked by most of these delegates. Remember that, and that means there is quite a lot of income that is coming in from the people. Remember, these hotels are owned by the private people, by the Ugandans, and they make orders in the different markets to ensure that they can buy what is needed for these delegates. So it's all upon the right positioning for you to ensure that you can actually tap into these related opportunities.
I mean, that is why we've been, talking about broadening your business as a business person. You broaden your business so that you're known.
Exactly.
Because I don't think they give regular people opportunities to be, suppliers of food and all. Like it's the people. They are the people that are known. When it comes to distribution of food, it's people that are known. Those that have large quantity. People that can supply for a full week or month. So that is why we are calling actually. We've been advocating for commercial agriculture instead of subsistence agriculture, where people, fend for what to eat that very day.
Yes.
So how about we grow on a larger scale so that if opportunities like these come, we can actually benefit from it.
That's absolutely right. Now, of course, accompanied with the Vice President's report here, of course, he mentioned something about Uganda's $50 billion economy, which enjoys market linkages within the $305 billion East African community. That is the economy in there. Of course, the fastest growing and most diversified economic bloc that is on the African continent. But of course, we see that Uganda is centrally providing access to the different regional markets of the East African community. That is the common market for Eastern Southern Africa and the African Continental Free Trade Area with over 55 states. So when you can access the Ugandan market now, this is in line with the different investors. They have access to the COMESA, there is the East African community itself, accompanied with some members which are part of the SADC, like Tanzania, which cuts across that way. Now, of course, further we see that she stated yesterday that although starting from a very low base, Uganda has maintained a relatively stable, robust economic growth rate over the years, and on an average of about 6.2% in the past 37 years. Of course, we should also get to understand that the GDP growth is projected at about 5.6% come 2024. So that shows the investors that there is quite a positive economic climate, when it comes to investment. Now, of course, Uganda's GDP per capita now stands at about $1,100. That's about 4,200, stands at $100, and that is fast rising and promising a sustainable market for the local production and fast moving consumer goods and services, making the country highly rewarding for foreign private investment. Though, of course, when we get in terms of the purchasing power of Ugandans, it's slightly, because I can really understand that the factories, the different industrial plants that have been created, most especially in the financial year 2023, 2 million jobs. But when you get to look into these people, what is their salary? Can their salary really support purchase to be, increase their demand power? So those are quite lots of aspects which I think, need to be looked into deeply, because it might create a positive aspect regarding that. But when it comes to what is happening really on ground, people can't consume beyond that, because we also can see that some of the biggest people that were affected during this summit, most especially the people that operate informally, because we need to understand, Mercy, that Uganda's economy purely, that it stands really on the common man. Actually, all economies definitely run on the common man. So if the common man's economic activities are hampered with, there is going to be hardly the demand cycle is going to be affected within the country, you know. And now that's why I feel like however much we look at the macroeconomic factors in here, we should always see how we stabilize the local down the local economy. In other words, taking a look from the micro perspective of individual households.
Well, of course, still yesterday, Abidjan having had chairmanship of the NAM since 2019. And of course, they had this initiative that they created for the NAM Youth and Women Forum. And of course, our Minister for Gender has taken interest. And, you know, hoping that one day, since we're having, you know, chairmanship, we could actually host host the NAM Women Secretariat.
Okay.
And of course, this is, she said actually that the Secretariat will coordinate issues around women, women and youth. You know, those are the most vulnerable people that we have in society. Women and youth around women within NAM member states within the 3 years. And of course, beyond, advocating for economic empowerment for women and resolutions coming from the NAM, which affects women. So this has been as an opportunity. You remember we had a forum, was it a summit for women, the women in business? Yeah, also that. And of course, given the fact that women are the poorest.
Yeah. Poorest in terms of what?
The bracket, like in income, productivity and all that. And of course, so they are using this opportunity as we're going to have the membership, the chairmanship of NAM to address these issues, mostly in our country, Uganda. When you look at the disparities between men and women, you realize women earn less than men. Yeah, because of their productive labor force, and of course most of them are into the informal sector. Yeah, and of course the youth as well, who consume a bigger population of Uganda.
All right, absolutely right. And that, of course, quite an ongoing aspect right there regarding NAM hosting the non-alignment movement. Well, of course, this brings us to the end of this discussion. Definitely, we're going to be having further detailed analysis later on. But at this particular point in time, let's take a look at what's really transpiring in the press. As we kickstart up here, I clearly see on the new vision, Soga Minerals to fetch about 2.2 trillion, that is Ugandan shillings. Now, tough conditions set for investor in Eastern, that is in Eastern Uganda, right here, and seeing leaders arriving for the NAM summit, the president of South Sudan, that is Salva Kiir, Djibouti, the president of Djibouti and Somalia at the same time, here on the top page, as we see now, still. President Yoweri Museveni pardons ex-NSSF boss, that is Jamwa, right there. So we can proceed here. And we'll take a look at what's happening in the Daily Monitor.
And of course, happening in the Daily Monitor, away from the NAM government body wants 2-term limit for women members of parliament. Okay. So definitely, I don't think, we shall see if it will be personal. Now, a government body mandated to promote equity at workplace has recommended a 2-term limit for women leaders who join politics through affirmative action, a proposal which could call for changes in the constitution. Okay. So not more than 2 years, not more than 2 terms actually. And of course, NAM ministers denounced the Israel on Gaza war. Remember, this is one of the issues they highlighted that should be discussed, addressed. During this time, since Palestine is also part of the non-alignment movement, I don't think that would, not be left tackled. Well, of course, also former NSSF managing director Jamwa, 12 other inmates pardoned. Yeah, and of course, Minister Shtutu charged again.
All right, now Namibia Premier has stronger ties with Uganda. We, at the same time, as we see women call for support in agribusiness, and the Uganda to earn 2.2 trillion from Busoga rare minerals. Like we've seen, tough conditions are being set for investor wax. And the wax actually going to proceed in 12 months. They are starting in 12 months' time, as we can observe this. And now, still to the NAM here, ministers protest bullying by the developed countries. And of course, presidents arrive for the non-alignment movement, as we can see. And the South Sudan, the new non-alignment movement member. Yes, so.
And of course, the minister, the minister Musene is under scrutiny. The coffee drinking hubs that were never there. And of course, remember, she was under scrutiny after the president wanted to probe her into the billions of money that were supposed to be used for the drinking coffee.
I remember that campaign.
Yeah, that campaign. Yeah, so definitely she's under scrutiny, and they want reports. Yes, account for the money.
And coffee has been one of the traditional exports that we have been having, but it's quite absurd that the consumption when it comes to the domestic market is quite a little bit wanted. You know, I
mean, at least people could come and testify. I mean, those that tested the coffee, that were into the drinking challenge and all that. So definitely she was thrown out of the committee. Because she could not actually give accountability of how the money was spent, and the beneficiaries of all that.
Okay, now of course Museveni pardons Jamal and 12 others here, and Minister Chitutu slapped with a 1.5 billion fresh charge. Find out what that really entails. Now the First Lady inspects the Naman G77 plus China summits facilities in Munyonyo. And Member of Parliament, 263 billion shillings for development of industrial parks.
Well, of course, NAM Summit resurrects the 500 billion Chogam memories. And of course, looking at the expenditure of the Chogam, they spent 500 billion. And now for this NAM, they spent 66 billion.
66 billion.
Huge difference.
Actually, that money is entirely more of it's 60 billion has been much on maintenance here, the infrastructures. I mean,
Chogam was way bigger.
Was way heavier. But see, now that brings us to the challenge, something which is quite very tricky. And so many times, most of these aspects, for example, if we had the Bill Clinton coming here to Uganda, the Pope coming here to Uganda, we had the Chogam. But the aspect is that we don't have a legacy for this, like something you look up to. Let me say a healthy center for that was established, and you can say, hey, when this
happened,
person came, this is what happened. A legacy of that kind. So let's hope that we have learned from the mistakes of the past in terms of expenditure, allocating, because I understand the benefits of these summits are both direct and indirect at the same time. But at least we need to ensure that it's worth a memory that 2024 we have the IGAD summit, we have NAM, the G77 plus China, we've had the CISPOC. These are, I feel, these are gatherings for a lifetime opportunity for us to be careful as we spend.
I'm thinking actually when it came to, they were comparing expenditures of transport for delegates, and of course during the Chogam they purchased brand new actually luxurious vehicles, 204, including BMWs. You can imagine those are quite expensive cars compared to this year where they had to ask ministers to hand over their cars for the delegates, which is good looking at the situation that we have and the debt that we have. So definitely I think this was actually needed. This was needed to put us in order. Not every time that we have to spend. It doesn't mean that we have to spend necessarily.
Absolutely. Now, URA lacks money for road maintenance. We're going to this, so you'll find out these details when you grab yourself a copy that is of the new vision. And Makerere University seeks 100 billion Ugandan shillings to harness research potential. Yes, research in all aspects there, which is needed for the institute. And now 85 EPDF officers are set to graduate at Makerere. Officers will graduate with master's degrees and diplomas after completing studies in different disciplines related to defense, security, and medical studies. All right. Okay, further here in the comment section, I can see quite a number of comments in relation to the non-alignment movement. And of course, somebody here says, when it comes to, he speaks of timely justice will strengthen the legal system. Okay, when you grab this stuff, you can find out that what it really entails. And AFCON, somebody here says AFCON provides valuable lessons for Ugandan football there. And somebody here says Africa leads charge for justice at the ICG against Israel's alleged genocide. Of course, this is part of the discussions in the NAM. And when in the business section here, we can also see over 80,000 women get 100 billion shillings. That is a credit support. Okay.
And of course, here in the Daily Monitor, urging people in the comment section, urging people to make the most of this very summit, you know, tap into the dollars, and of course, the Indian sanctuary is already here. And of course, urging people not to forget to smile for the yes, do not forget to smile once you see the delegates passing. Okay, be hospitable enough. Yeah, at least let them feel at home. Yeah.
And here, the senior presidential advisor on finance and planning, that is Dr. Ezra Sharma, tips the government on strategies for job creation. So what are those strategies? Well, grab yourself a copy and get to understand what that ideology really entails. And seeing here, that is a report from the export trade specialist saying casein milk extract with export market. So casein is actually part of milk production. It's something obtained there. And I will see here capital markets regulation. Of course, which direction should we go? You know, that this is Joseph Katamiri case, the founder of World Tax East Africa. He's inquiring which direction should we go as a result of the regulations by the regulating body, that is the Capital Markets Authority. All right, now seeing some other aspects here of the Katanga matter, as High Court declines to hear bail application.
And of course, over 100 Massacre City schools face closure. And of course, rural health centers get 1.2 billion theatre laboratory. And of course, schools here seeking 40 million Ugandan shillings for collapsed latrines.
And now I'll take a look at the environment officer detained over 20 million Ugandan shillings. And the 4 medics remanded over 2 children's death. And finally, Trump writes Iowa landslide to New Hampshire.
Yeah.
All right. That brings us to the end of our press review. For now, Smart Means Business is going to take a break. And when we return, we shall be heading into what's happening in Caribbean, South Africa, and international updates. Stick around.